Hi, I would like to quickly talk to you about our Rethinking Artificial Intelligence project. It's a $500,000 granted work from two different sources, the big one being SSHRC, and we're doing this at SFU is leading this effort. So we know that there's a lot wrong with AI. Surely privacy, that it goes to corporate servers, you don't have control or transparency, the cost and limited access people have been complaining about. But bigger than that is the energy use, which is really a hit on the world and climate change. We like to talk about something that's very important for us at Cognitive Science Lab, which is how biased and Western dominated the data sets are. And in fact, how poorly they were actually originally captioned. So AI is misidentifying and homogenizing cultural and aesthetic distinctions. There's issues around copyright and provenance and job loss. So I think what I'm here to tell you today is the problems with AI or just the corporate AI apps. And it is a time that the community can take this back. Another problem that I left separate is, in fact, this notion of cognitive death is what we call about it, which is if all you're going to do is passively prompt with these corporate systems, you're atrophying, the mental skills of our youth with not doing reasoning, questioning, and synthesis correctly, no reflection or iteration. So we definitely have a solution to this one as well, which is moving from passive prompting to active orchestration. We're not the only ones doing this. We call it human in the loop approach. And this approach is specifically to think about orchestrating and using your mind. So the old way was AI write me a report with a prompt or a number of prompts that you accept or reject. But the new way, which I'm not going to talk to fully here, is that a number of us are working on is that you're a conductor and orchestrator, often with many possible AIs, but always where you're in control. You take multiple steps, you try this, if that doesn't work, you try something else, and pulling away from prompts entirely, which you'll see with our work. So with human in the loop, there's this notion that a human decompose the problem and use AI to help you with that. You direct with explicit instructions, particular steps. You decide what makes sense and how you move forward. So all this is in our tool called AI for All, which I'm going to talk to you about now. So it's free, unlimited, and private because it works locally on your computer, and we're building in such a way where there's no cloud, no subscription fees. It can work on a Mac or a PC. And we do that because there's this notion of distilled open source models that have different levels to them. So you can use a smaller model when it makes sense or a bigger model, and therefore you can get it to fit on kind of a hefty computer. Surely it does all the things other systems do, be able to take in your data set, and surely we have a full kind of web research tool and reasoning tool. But with human in the loop, we separate those tools out now. So if you want them, you have to explicitly say, go on to the web or this or that. This is very different than the corporate tools, which are assuming there's some, intelligent entity and you're talking to it. We're not doing that anymore. These are tools for humans to use. We are targeting, this for nonprofits, indigenous groups, cultural institutions, and we're already using it in a number of different areas. So this is the tool. You can see it's like a regular LLM here where I have fast and slow thinking. I can ask through. The big deal though for us is trying to solve a number of these problems is this energy dashboard. More so, it's not allowing you just to do one thing anymore. The web would be separate than chat, and we even have tips for how to do that. So we have a number of papers on when you show people the energy usage, they use things kind of quite differently. So we also have this efficiency tip to help you with this human in the loop way of doing things. We're trying this now with a number of groups, and already we have studies that show with the energy dashboard, in this case, the students that we've been using this with change their behavior. And in fact, we think, it could be an extremely less energy system. Again, the way to think about it, when you're thinking about it, there's no cloud, there's no building of GPUs. This can happen locally on your computer. The electricity being used is what's coming from the plug of your laptop or PC. We have a number of papers on this energy issue, but also on doing kind of slow AI and thinking about it in very different kinds of ways with restraint and sufficiency and things. Also, notion of this AI slag versus AI slop, which has to do with the storage being used and other climate issues. So you can see our papers that bring this to. This notion of these systems not really being appropriate to everybody is something we've been doing and learning about. My grad student, Shuming Dao, is a Chinese art conservation person who's looking at thousands of damaged scrolls and how she could look at that damaged area and come up with a suggestion to conservation folks about how to change that. So we have a number of these cultural tools, and we're finding when she was building it that we surely just don't ask the AI what to do. In fact, this is the human in the loop technique. So she, as a curator and expert, decides what it should train on, other parts of this picture, other parts of the pictures, on illustrations of this artist or maybe other artists, and she's thinking through all those things. But in doing so, we came up with problems where it really didn't understand Asian culture and other countries very well. In fact, we've written in our papers that she put in Chinese work and got modern Japanese work. So this is an example of this huge problem where these systems have biases for surely indigenous minorities and others. How can we solve this? So I already talked about AI for all, open source system. The second piece of this is specific to creatives, and this is the 400K grant that we just got from SSHRC. And I will show you that. That's more on the visual side. So again, the current models used in the visual work from the corporations have copyrighted and culturally sensitive works without attribution. They misidentify and flatten these cultural, historical, and aesthetic distinctions. Indigenous and non-Western traditions are especially harmed. And this notion of cultural homogeneity is tremendous. And it's displacing our artists, and they're losing their jobs and livelihood. So can we make a new generation of tools? As we've written in the grant, the objective is to actually write a new model from scratch that's copyright clean and culturally aware. So surely you can start it with 1932 and before public artworks and design works. That's clean and copyrighted. This is tricky. And one of the things we were promised is every source, artist, and image is publicly searchable. So there's provenance, so you know exactly, what's in the system and not. Our big work, being a cognitive science lab, is the second one, which is preserving cultural specificity and art historical knowledge and avoid cultural homogenization. So we're talking about a semantic captioning tool where we believe we could recaption things with things like indigeneity, Asian culture, and even dance and movement. And we're looking for people, and you can see we have specific PhDs working on that. The other thing is that artists journey through a creative space. They do not prompt. So the system maps every creative decision they make. They can move back and forth through that. It's session specific, and it's using this new human in the loop, and it will have the same energy dashboard as the other system. So we're not just primary researchers who study artists, we're artists and researchers who build these tools. So we're using them, and we will be involved in every stage, from conservation to ideation, gallery shows, art videos. So we want to show artists by using these tools that it makes sense for them. So we would like to get involvement from others, and we're surely going to work with major art critics, Canadian and worldwide experts in this area. AI should not be an oracle controlled by a few. It should be transparent, sustainable medium for human creativity. So you can see this notion of journeying through all possible ideas to get to this one. And then you would fork in different directions. You would get a map of every single thing you've done where you can fork in a direction, realize you've gone too far, come back. This is great to show clients as well too. So this is the systems we've been building. People have been using early versions of this system to ideate, for instance, new forms of living hospital work, also in architectural spaces, and other forms of art. So this is our system. We surely have got the semantic part of it, where we could even kind of understand animal communication. So we have a My Tax Grants. With that, we want to be doing it for here, this notion of traveling through dance and trees. Here's a tree and a dance. Here's a dancing tree. Here's thinking about that. So this is the journey we want artists to take on their own, this notion of portrait space and moving through that way. So never about prompting, always now about moving through these spaces in a way that you're comfortable with. So these are the two grants that we have, the SSHRC Insight Grant and the AI for All. One is the large language model grant that, again, is free, open source, and we want to deploy to nonprofits and other groups. And then the SSHRC grant, which is more on the visual model side, to give creatives their livelihood back. The idea is we definitely want to re-democratize AI for all.